just a few things all happening at once. So we're starting a couple minutes early just so we can spend a little extra time. But I want to welcome everybody and everybody on Zoom as well. At this time, I'd like to call up Eddie Bowling to lead us in our opening prayer.
Let's pray. Dear most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to assemble in your presence, Lord, to spend time with friends and fellowship over a meal. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for what it means to be a Rotarian, for every member in this room that is present and not present. We thank you for the leadership in our community and the efforts that they provide for our citizens. We thank you for this day, that you'll bless the meal. Thank you for your strength for our bodies and our bodies for your service. And I pray that you'll go before us, lead a path, and keep us all safe. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
So join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, Nancy, you and I, Phil's up close. You can just turn around and sing if you'd like. All right. So wait. I'll please. I gotta turn around. So raise your hand if you have a truck. Other than that, all right, if you have a truck, Monday morning at 8 o'clock, that would be an absolute help to Light and to Doc to be able to deliver chairs around town. That would be much appreciated. If you don't mind, shoot me a message or see me after the meeting if there's any way that you can help with the truck and delivery on Monday morning. There are cards back there for Hope, for her family, and then also, like Brian said, Doug has retired or is done. He just cold turkey quit everything. So there's a card back there for Doug as well. Also, sign-ups for the cornhole tournament are happening. So let's get signed up and have a good presence at that as well. All right,
I'm sure everybody knows, Hope's mother passed away Saturday afternoon. And just so everybody knows, the service will be Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock at J.C. Green's in the chapel. And then after that will be visitation with the family. I just want everybody to know that they did.
thanks, Tom. Brandon.
I just wanted to let the Rotary know that Lieutenant's out. She got a call over the weekend, and her grandfather is passing away, so she's down there now. So just kind of keep her family in prayer. And then also, I hear that that's where the hurricane is going in Tallahassee. So keep them in prayer.
Thanks, Brandon. Other announcements? Oh, Coffee Connections. Coffee Connections is tomorrow. Where's that?
It's cross ties.
Cross ties tomorrow. So if you've never had their, I don't know what it is, but they're waffles. If you've never had their waffles at cross ties, if they ever change them, it's a problem. But if you've not been to Coffee Connections, Chamber Coffee Connections, tomorrow at cross ties, 8:30 till whenever we're done. And everybody's day is Saturday, isn't it? Everybody's night is Friday night. It's not looking like great weather, but it's still a good time if you can make it out to everybody's night. Any other announcements?
Blood drive's in 3 weeks, and we have lots of slots available at this point. It'll be October 17th from 1:30 to 6 at Memorial Night.
All right, 1:30 to 6 on October 16th, 17th. Blood drive at Memorial, 1:30 to 6 on the 17th. A lot of slots available, so you got 3 weeks to eat healthy and stock up on blood. All right. Other announcements? We did, and I'll throw this out there too. We found out last night, I think y'all know, my mom had a heart valve replaced last year. It's not doing well, so she's now got to go and have an MRI done to figure out what's going on with that valve that they replaced. So she's low on energy and not doing super well. So that kind of caught us off guard yesterday. So just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. She doesn't handle stuff like that well, but we'll see what they say if they've got to go and replace it again, or if it's something different that that's happened. We'll know later. So. All right, Candace, you have slip pop.
Okay, well today we have 50 cards, we're going to $87 today, so half the pop will be $109.50.
Wait, did Carla play? Okay.
No, that's why. I went to Well, I wouldn't go to somebody that didn't play. All right. The last 3 numbers are 811.
811. So we now have Scott and Stan both on Zoom, and Diana Sullivan has joined us via Zoom. So hi everybody.
We were just talking about that.
Get him some gas money for delivering chairs on Monday. and meant a lot to the city of Joe Bennett last week. So a couple of things. First of all, we're going to take some time, and those that have good memories of Joe to share. There are a lot of people in the club that may not know of him and never even met him. But he was just, you think about somebody that's nice to be around and have great positive things to say, and certainly a wonderful asset to the city, and that was Joe. So I would like to invite people to stand and come up and give a tribute, but could we first just have a moment of silence in honor of Joe? Thank you. All right. So who would like to go first? Hi, Mary, somebody.
Too good forward yours.
Yeah, I don't either.
You know, I thought about this a little bit, what I could say about Joe, and I could say a lot. And if Joe responded, it'd take a while to hear from him. That was kind of a running joke, you know, Joe told me about several times that when he would describe something to somebody, he said, you know, it's like building a watch. It takes a while to get everything out, so get everything done. I knew Joe for about 20 years, from the time that I ran the council the first time, when he was elected mayor for the first time in 2003. And he didn't know me at the time, but over the next 2 years, I continued going to council meetings, and I got to know Joe quite well. I was elected in 2005. And when I came on council, he was a mentor to me, and he put me in leadership roles to help me learn the trade, so to speak. And he really helped me a lot. And I really appreciated it for the opportunities he gave me. I told him that on many occasions what he meant to me and how he had helped me along. But I want to tell you just a little backstory, behind the scenes story, how things may go in politics sometimes. You know, you have the backroom things that come out. But I never had told this in public, I don't think. But in 2013, Joe had decided he wasn't going to run again. So he knew during the years coming up at that time that I had shown an interest in maybe running for mayor at some point. But some of the city folks talked to him, and he decided to run in 13, which he did, and he won again. And so now let's fast forward to 2015. We had the same conversation, and Joe and I, you know, we talked in private about this, and he told me in the spring that he and the family had made a decision that he was not going to run for re-election. So he had a plan. And so he said, this is what we need to do. He said, I know you want to run for mayor. I said, yeah, I'd like to. He said, so this is what we'll do. He said, I'll announce that I'm not running. And we decided on a date. And so I said, okay. And he said, the very next week, you come out and announce that you are going to be a candidate for mayor. And so he said, if you do that, he said, that will put you out front, and maybe people will see that you may be somebody that they wouldn't want to run against. So we worked this plan, and when it come election time, I didn't have anybody that ran against me. So Joe had a knack for politics and what it took to get the job done in the right way. He helped me along a lot, and he guided me through a campaign there, running for mayor for the first time. I just appreciate him so much, and thank y'all for listening.
I first met Joe back in the 70s when I was a little boy growing up at First Presbyterian Church. That's where my family and I went to church, and Joe and his family. I grew up with his kids there. Then later on, Rotary, the YMCA, were mainly my connections with Joe. Raleigh alluded to Joe talking a lot. Probably everybody that comes to this microphone today will mention that. But you know, the thing about Joe, he would talk to you all day, for sure. But he was even more interested in listening to you talk all day. He would listen to you talk all day and all night. So if you could survive him all day, he could survive you all day and all night. But he was a great man. I want to share a story that his son told at the funeral. Some of you were there, and his son Ray told his story. He started out, I'll probably butcher it, but you'll get the point, I think. And this will be a different side of Joe that you may have never seen, and after the story, you may be glad you didn't see. But Ray said Joe did not like sticky things. And they were at the dinner table, and the kids were young, Ray and Catherine, his kids. And one of the kids knocked over a sticky drink, and it went all over Joe. Well, the kids were expecting the wrath to come down at that moment. It did not. Joe calmly got up, went to the bedroom, changed clothes, came back and sat down, and he was in his bathing suit, ready to finish the meal. I don't know that I really expected to go to the funeral and hear that story, but I'm glad I did. Joe was a great man, a great community member, a great Rotarian. And I think it's great, David, that we're taking time to remember him.
On your next.
I knew Joe Bennett well. I sat next to him at this table for at least 15 years. Joe and Carolyn were like a big brother and big sister to me. I served as organist and choir master at Joe's church for 9 years. Carolyn sang in the choir and was on the board that hired me. Carolyn shared some information about Joe that I will share with you. When I broke my leg with a shattered fracture, had to be replaced with a titanium rod. And Joe went through the line for me here at Rotary every week and brought food to the table. When I was president of the Rotary Club 2008 to 2009, I mentioned to Joe that the Rotary Club was over 100 years old and that your community should know more about Rotary's contribution to society. This prompted Joe's Rotary International Proclamation. The closing line of the proclamation reads as follows. Now therefore I, Joe G. Bennett, Mayor of the City of Thomasville, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim February 23rd, 2009 as Rotary Day in Thomasville, North Carolina, and encourage all citizens to join me in recognizing Rotary International for its more than 100 years of service to improving the human condition in local communities around the world. This is the 16th day of February 2009. Now then, back to the news that Carolyn shared with me about Joe. Soon after I came to First Presbyterian as choir master, she came to me and she said, quote, "Dear Lord, Joseph, do not let Joe sing in the choir because he just can't sing." Having sat next to him for 15 years, I can attest that sometimes he was south of the pitch. Within a week of telling me that, I was shopping at Harris Teeter when I heard someone come up behind me and start singing, "Do, re." It was Joe. I told him that later we'd have to find time for him to audition. And later that week, I was at the liquor store purchasing a half-gallon of Tanqueray gin when I heard, "Do, re." Everyone started looking at me as if I had prompted that. The following week, I was loading groceries into my car from Food Lion, And who do you think showed up with another rendition of Do, Re, Mi? Good job. My last act as organist choir master of First Presbyterian Church was to name Joe G. Bennett an honorary member of the chapel choir. The rest is history.
Very quickly, another First Presbyterian Church story about Joe Bennett. The children at First Presbyterian Church loved Joe. He had formed a relationship with every one of them, and it was proved Monday at his service. Two of the kids took the day off from school to attend the service. At the end of the service, out in the hallway outside the sanctuary, both of them were in tears. And it just reminded us exactly what Joe did, not only the First Pres. I was there, I've been at the First Pres since 81, 82. Akerman was there when I got there. So, for two children to remember Joe that well, and take the day off from school to be at the funeral. It's not unusual for kids want to take a day off from school, but to attend a person's, older person's funeral, they were so admired and loved. So that was Joe Bennett.
I just wanted to come and add that I'm hearing lots of great stories, some that I knew, some that I maybe didn't know. Joe did serve on our advisory board at the Salvation Army for many years, and there's lots of times when, board participation may vary, but he always went out of his way to support our kids, and I still remember we would have proclamations, readings for National Boys and Girls Club Day, and we would come down to the gazebo and everything downtown, and he would always present the award, and we would get maybe 5 or 6 kids out of school that would, they just felt really special. And Joe had a way of making those kids, he would say, "This is you, you're the next leader." He would, make them feel like you're going to be mayor one day, and just kind of build and invest into our kids. And I just felt like I wanted to share that because Joe had a great heart for kids.
I wanted to share that Joe and I were on the North Carolina Memorial Day Parade Committee together. And he had just an unconditional love for Thomasville. I can remember one time our CEO of that group mentioned we use hotels in Lexington to put our Gold Star families in. And I believe we received about a 15-minute lecture on how it had to stay in Thomasville. So I can tell you that after that, nobody ever mentioned Lexington again in one of those meetings. So that was just a little glimpse of Joe and his love for Thomasville.
Well, I'll close this out and move along and just say that, everybody kind of remembers their first or second Rotary meeting. And he was one of the few, not one of the few, but there was kind of a group of people of him and Doc and Judy and Ken and Hope and everybody that was just, and Raleigh, everybody that was just very welcoming. Just my first meeting or two that I ever came to the club, and just a wonderful person. So when you think about the service above self and the Rotary ideals and what we stand for, I mean, he was just and so it's one of those where if you had a lot of time with him or if you didn't, and what circumstances, it's one of those that as a Rotarian loss is tough to take, and that we all strive to be like. So we appreciate everybody that shared. At this time, I'm going to call up Mary Jane, and we're going to let you talk to us about your trip that you got to take. So, looking forward to that, and thank you to everybody who shared their points.
I will start with just a note about the obvious. It was not a bar fight. It's a little tumble with my grandson. Everything is fine, it just looks pretty bad. I am really excited to share about my trip to Camino. It was, I would call it a once in a lifetime, but I hope it's not a once in a lifetime. I would love to do it again. I want to start with just a little bit of background, sort of the history on why people do that and how that came to be. St. James, the Apostle St. James, after the crucifixion and the disciples went to spread the church, St. James went to the Iberian Peninsula, to Portugal and Spain, and probably not overly successful there because it was just there a short time. Went back to Jerusalem and was pretty quickly beheaded. But his disciples decided his remains needed to go back to Spain. So that's where the story ended for a long time. And then several hundred years later, a friar saw a vision of lights coming from a field in the interior of Spain. And he called that a field of stars, Compestla. And so Santiago de Compostela is St. James of the Field of Stars. And the church built a cathedral there. And Mark says it was a tourism stunt, but the bishop of the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela started encouraging people who could not make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land to make a pilgrimage to Santiago in Spain. So that's sort of how it started. And so there's records from as early as 900 AD that people made pilgrimages across Spain, across the Iberian Peninsula, and even from across Europe. So there are lots of different paths. You can see that they come from France. There is even a route from England that starts by boat and then lands in Spain and ends up at Santiago. There are other pilgrimages of this sort, some that are in Italy that go to Spain, go to Rome. Obviously, there are pilgrimages that go to Jerusalem. These were walking pilgrimages, or could be by boat for a portion of it, or by horseback. So that's sort of a little background, a little history on how that came to be. My pilgrimage started in Burgos. I was on Camino de Francais, so the French way. So it starts up in, the most common place to start it is Saint Jean Pied de Port, which is on the French Spanish border in the Pyrenees. Did you guys see the movie The Way? Fantastic movie. I have it on CD. Nobody can watch it that way, or DVD, but great movie, well worth watching. Martin Sheen was in it, his son, Emilio Estevez, directed it, and was actually in it. Great movie. Anyway, that's the most popular route, that's the route I did, but we didn't start at what we consider the beginning, we started in Burgos, partly because that's just how much time my daughter and I had. So she and I had been planning it for a while. It's something we talked about for years. Those are just some sort of the plans that we had and what we needed. But I knew someone years and years ago, probably 35, 40 years ago in Dallas who did Camino. And it always just sort of spoke to me as something I wanted to be able to do. So I've always kind of had that. And then my daughter, when she became very involved in the church in her middle school years, had a bunch of friends that went on a trip and did a pilgrimage as teenagers. So she and I talked about it for years. It's a time commitment, among other things. So to do the Camino Frances from Saint Jean to Santiago takes about 6 weeks. And to find 6 weeks time in our lives is hard. To find it for two people who can both do it at the same time is almost impossible. So she would have times where she could do it, maybe summers while she was in college, but I couldn't do it because of other commitments, and vice versa. And she is in seminary in New York City, Union Theological, and she's just started her third year of 3 years to become an Episcopal priest. And this was past summer, was her last summer in school. And I said, okay, we're just going to do this. So we started planning. We did sort of a divide and conquer on the planning. I did a lot of the research on where we would stay, the kinds of places, what the route would be. I practiced my Spanish, so it could get us through some places. She was in charge of sort of the technology side of it and how we would do our phones and how we would be connected, that kind of thing. Anyway, spent months planning, and then we did it. One of the things that is part of a Camino, for many people, it's not required, but is to have a credential to be stamped along the way. And you take that credential to the Pilgrim office in Santiago. And if you meet the criteria, you get a certificate of completion, which is actually, if you know religious history, the Catholic Church used to give indulgences, which were sort of a special forgiveness of sins. That's exactly what that Compestla is an indulgence from the Catholic Church. Anyway, so you can see the thing we have is a little, and I've got it here, it kind of folds out, and everywhere you go, you get a stamp. And then that proves that you went all the way along the way. To kind of give you a sense of our daily routine, we got up 6:37 every morning. We tried to get on the road pretty early just so we could beat the heat, beat the exhaustion. We did, let's see, in the middle, we had a yoga routine that my niece developed for. She's a yoga instructor, so we did a little morning stretch, and we had an afternoon stretch. We had a light breakfast when we started, coffee and a little croissant or toast or something. A couple hours later, we do what we call second breakfast, which was a second cup of coffee and some other little treat. And then our goal was to be where we were going to get to the end for the next night by lunchtime. So then we had the afternoon. It didn't always work. We were very slow walkers. I'll show you some pictures of some things that we did, but we didn't want to miss anything. There was a church, we went into it. We stopped and looked at streams and fields and people, and so it was usually by mid-afternoon we'd get to our next town. Stop, shower, have supper, and then to bed early to be up again the next day. Took a couple of days of sore legs, but once we got into that routine, it was really nice. There's something really comforting about that. Just, you know what you're going to do every day. Just up and walk and do. I put some pictures in about some of the different terrains. So it's, because the path has been there for so long, it's not really just along roads. I think about, like, how would we do it if we did a pilgrimage, say, from here to Lexington or you know, something. And we typically figure out how to get to places along roads. But so much of this is there's no roads there. So it's paths. And so a lot of it was like this one, kind of a dirt path. They're really pretty well maintained, and there's thousands of people who walk along them every day. So this is the first part that where we started in Burgos, sort of the middle part of Spain. It's called the Meseta, and so it's like a high plain. As you can see, it's fairly flat, but not. When I think of high plains, I thought it was going to be super. It's not super flat. Sort of the next area was very, very mountainous. We were there. This is probably late May, early June, and I don't know if you can see, but there's snow on the top of the mountains. And they were not that far away, but incredibly beautiful mountains that we really went up and down every mountain. And then the last portion was more kind of woodlands as we got closer to into Santiago. We were on the road, walked for 27 days. We got 321 miles is how far we walked in that time. One of the things that we really loved was all of the churches. So the, I guess, upper left is actually not a church-style museum, but it's was designed by Gaudi, who's a very famous architect in Spain. And so that was built as the bishop's residence and has become a museum, but it's incredibly beautiful. The one at the top is a monastery that has been a monastery since, I can't even, I want to say something like 450 AD. It originally was a monastery for the Desert Fathers, and then has since become a Benedictine monastery, but it's been in use as a monastery since the year 450. It's just incredible, the history. Of course, the picture down here in the corner is the cathedral at Santiago. My daughter and I are from it. Of course, that's we just got there, so we are super thrilled. And then the last two are just, I guess the last one is just a little tiny village church that we passed on the way. And like I said, we went into every one that was open. This one was kind of neat because there was a woman in there. I don't know if she was a nun or just someone who was a volunteer who did it. But she would stamp your credential, but she also gave everyone, if you wanted, a blessing and had a little medal of the Virgin Mary or piece of string that she would, so that is something that we carried with us the whole trip. It's now attached to my backpack as a memento. Because the Camino started as a religious experience for people, it's very much apparent throughout everything there. Lots of people don't do it for spiritual reasons now. Some people do it for adventure or just to get a good walk in. But spirituality is definitely apparent all along the way. Lots of places there were crosses along the path. Some were just a cross that people had, and some were memorials for people who walked the Camino and passed away. I always wonder if that was the spot or the family just decided to memorialize it there. But anyway, and then even within a lot of the churches had the candles. I don't know if we have any Catholics in here. I was raised Catholic, but the lighting of the candles. And it was, we got some, okay, so you know. Every time there was a candle, I lived by from the wall, so that was a very meaningful thing. Another big piece of our day, I sort of gave you our routine, it was all scheduled around our meals. The food was incredible. It's really nice that it's such a well-structured and maintained that you can find lodging, regular spaces along the way, and food all along the way. I think the lower picture down here is sort of those chocolate croissants. We've had those for breakfast a lot. The coffee was always good. Up at the top, there's a paella that we had. Delicious. So much fresh stuff. A lot of our meals, we would go in, just the two of us, but we'd find other people, and either we met them along the way, and so we rejoining friends, or people just said, "Could we come sit with you?" And that's how we met people. And that was a really neat part of the experience, was just meeting people along the way. Anyway, food was fantastic. I did manage to lose a few pounds, but not because I was trying, it just was, you walk it off. And then I just threw in a lot of pictures of things, people that we met, what the scenery was like. There's a couple of pictures up there of a cat that my daughter found who was interested in one of his dogs. It just was, every day every step along the way was something new and amazing. We just felt like we had to take pictures of everything. A couple of highlights along the way, and then I'll finish up and have questions. One of them, and this is the mountain region, this is Crucifero Iron Cross, which is a cross on top of a big telephone pole, as you can see. And at the bottom of it, and I don't know how this began, but people do it and have done it for centuries now, is you bring a rock from home and you lay it at the bottom of the cross as a symbol of leaving your burdens there at the cross. So I stuck a couple of rocks in my backpack, and because Cape Church can find a rock in New York City, but anyway. And so we did that, and it really was neat. People, as you get out there, you can see people have written messages. Sometimes it was in memory of someone, or people there were rocks that would talk about what people's burdens might have been, so a cancer or something else that was a burden that someone left there at the cross. That was really a meaningful thing. It's also quite the walk up there and the walk down at the end of the day. Another one of sort of the highlights for me is the Feast of Corpus Christi, which is the body of Christ. And so it's a celebration of the Eucharist, and which is a big celebration in the Catholic Church. And so we wanted to make sure we were somewhere with a big church. So this was the Basilica in Conferrata. And this on the side, they do these beautiful artwork on the sidewalk with flower petals and plants and things. And it's almost like a sand thing that was Hindi or somebody do. But, the wind blows and it goes away, but while it's there, just incredibly beautiful. So this is the whole path leading into the church. And then afterwards, during the service, it was First Communion, so about 40 First Communicants dressed in incredible clothes. I mean, some of the little guys had little military uniforms, and it was amazing. And then they do a procession afterwards. And so this is sort of the float that's carried, and on top of it is it's called a monstrance, so it's a big thing that they put a Eucharist in. So it's the Eucharist that leads the procession. And then all the First Communicants, and they had bands, and it was quite exciting. That was fun. And then I don't think I can make this video play.
Don't think it will when it comes from PowerPoint.
I'm going to put on my Facebook, and if you just want to email me, I did a blog, day by day, with just a few pictures of sort of what we did. But the day we got to Santiago, it's super hard to see, but it's a huge church and a very traditional church style, so it looks like a cross, the church does. And in the middle is where the altar is, and they have here, in this country, I always call it a thoroughfare, which is where they put the incense and swing it. They call it a funerera, and it's enormous, 450 pounds, and this huge chain. Takes 8 men to get the thing going, but they start swinging it, and it swings the entire transept, and so it has this incense in the church. It's incredible. And the music that plays with it, that was really a special time. Also, another thing that's really special about that is at the end of our journey, we were at this cathedral, and our goal was to get there at noon in time for the Pilgrim's Mass, where they do this. And 27 days is a long time to walk. It was really thrilling to be at the end of it. It also was 27 days since I had seen Mark, and he shows up just before, we planned this, but he shows up just before the service, and so it's really nice to be able to experience this with him. What did I do?
What is playing?
Oh, I don't know the music. Oh, well, you can't see it. Trust me, if you want to see it on the blog, or I can just send you the video of it. It's incredible. Okay. And of course, the other highlight of my trip was just doing it with my daughter. We had the best time. It was amazing to be able to spend that much time. We walked every step of it side by side. And there was never a moment that we weren't completely in sync with each other. It was really lovely. And then this is a picture at Finisterre, which is the town sort of Santiago. It's a little bit inland, but if you, a lot of pilgrims walk all the way out to Finisterre. We do not walk into the car. But it's the end of the earth. It's when the world was flat, and that's all there was. Finisterre is where people ended up their journey. So that's our picture. That is it. That was our trip.
I have a question. What was the topography like? Was it all pretty much, gradual incline, or were some days like hiking, or?
Yeah, so some days, instead of that first portion, it was more or less flat. I would guess it would be like, also like we think around here. You can, it's a little up and down, but mostly flat. There are some very steep mountain lines. I would say the hardest day was actually coming down from that Cruz Ferro was a very steep decline. What made it even harder was the path was just like large rocks that were kind of loose. And so it was a matter of, sort of step and make sure that, so it was just slow and hard going downhill. So yeah, it's very, very good.
What did you do to train to do this?
I walked.
Just walk?
Yep. And most of you don't know, but I have 2 brand new hips, and I did not have any problem at all with my hips. I have 2 old knees, but they never gave me a problem until we did this. And especially those days going downhill, I definitely felt it. But yeah.
What was the average distance per day that you went?
So we did, probably I'd say average is probably 13 to 15 miles a day. A couple of days that were longer. We used a guidebook to kind of help us figure out how far to go. And I think the guidebook's average is probably in that 15 to 18 range. And we decided pretty early on that was not for us. And so we restructured our days so that we took out 0 days and just made it so we walked less every day. Our shortest day was the final day, and that was 6 miles. And we wanted, so we could get there by noon. So we started early and got there in time for that noon total mass.
What's a 0 day? You just stay in
Where you stay in one place. Yeah.
What was the weather like?
So, surprisingly cold when we got there. We actually had to buy jackets, little fleeces. But most of it was absolutely pleasant. I would say starting in the mornings, 50s, 60s, into the day, maybe 80s. It gets hotter. Because we finished up June 12th, so obviously the hotter months are ahead, into July and August. We also lucked out, and we never walked in a downpour. A couple of times it rained overnight. A couple of times we were trying to do something in the evening, and it was raining, but we never walked in a downpour, which was.
Were you prepared to walk
We
13
did.
miles in a downpour?
We did. We had the big poncho that covered us and that thing, and that never got pulled out. So, yeah.
What percentage of people that you met spoke English?
Most. And we met people from all over the world. I mean, Korea, Croatia, everywhere. Guy from Uruguay. Most people speak English and they're happy to speak English to you, so it was not an issue on the trail. Sometimes we have a problem, sometimes Mary Jane needed to speak Spanish to like the hotels, and once we had that for a taxi cab, I am proud to say that my Spanish got us through, so it was good enough. But yeah, and most people were happy to speak English. And the interesting thing about people around the world, there were a lot of, for some reason, Koreans, which just struck me as odd. I mean, of all the Asian countries, there is a reality show in Korea about the Camino it's a cooking show. I have no idea how that works, what that's about, but anyway, that's what made it so popular in Korea, is they had a reality show on it. So it's just kind of an interesting thing.
What about number of shoes, pairs of shoes you take with you?
We had our walking shoes and a pair of sandals for the evening. We carried everything on our backs. You can have luggage forwarded each day. That was something I wanted to do, was to sort of see if I could do it by carrying everything. So we had, I don't know if you can quite tell from the few pictures you had, but I had 2 outfits, 2 pairs of shoes, the walking shoes every day and sandals. We were tired of those walking shoes at the end of the trip because they were.
What was the weight of your bag?
I was about 15 pounds. Yeah, Kate's was a little bit heavier. She had a few different things, but yeah. So it's not like the Appalachian Trail where you have to carry your tent and your cooking gear and all your food, you know, so it's really, you can focus on just having your clothes, toiletries, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And it felt really surreal when you and your daughter went to these cathedrals and churches, like, wow, these are like beautiful and have so much history incorporated with these buildings.
Absolutely surreal. Incredible. And one of my favorite things was a lot of the churches have pilgrim masses at the end of the day. So you pilgrims walk and then you go to a mass in the town. And one of them all in Spanish. And 2 are Catholic services, but after a while, Catholic service, it's exactly the same everywhere, so you kind of got to the sense of it. But then they would do a pilgrim blessing at the end, and lots of them were things where they had it in different languages, and so one of them in particular that I can remember had a single prayer, but written in every language. And so they would have someone from every language represented, everyone's native language, could read it. And, you know, it's the ones you expect: German, English, Italian, French. But then there was a woman from Japan, and he says, oh, just a minute. He goes back and he pulls out, and he had the prayer in Japanese. And then somebody else was from, it was a former Soviet Union country, I can't remember which one, but he had it. And so it's like, you know, they think about people coming from everywhere, and it may have been that the first time they didn't have one in Japanese, they had to have somebody translate it, but it just was really cool to hear that coming from people all over the world. But yeah, and the history there, I mean, like the churches that start year 900 or year 450, like, incredible. We think things are old here when they're 100 years old. We're really proud of that. It's a different world.
Tony says it's time to go.
Tony says it's time to go. I could talk forever about this. I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. And if you know someone who's interested in doing that, you or someone, I would be happy to talk to and give.
There's like one more question I have
Yeah.
before you married. For you and your daughter, did y'all experience any culture shocks when you were in Spain?
We spent a lot of time prepping and kind of getting what the culture was there. I think where our, maybe not culture shock, but the things that we were surprised about was just people from around the world, things that people take for granted around the world that, but in a lovely, pleasant way. Absolutely nothing that was unpleasant. It was an amazing experience. But thank you. Oh, yeah.
One more, always one more, right?
Always one more.
Did you ever have any security concerns? I mean, were you and your daughter, did you feel safe everywhere? Was there anywhere where you didn't feel safe?
On the Camino, absolutely felt safe every minute. I mean, it's a pretty well-traveled path, and so lots of times you could see someone ahead or behind you, or you knew that soon you would. And the people who live along the side of it, it's almost like they felt like they were guardians of the Camino. I mean, you felt very well protected, very well cared for on the Camino. When you go through some larger cities, and it's things like, I never felt unsafe. Part of it is I just don't go places where I'm not familiar with in a large city, you know, that kind of thing. But no, on the Camino, absolutely, I'll say it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary Jane. And I don't think I didn't ask this, but did you, and I may have missed it, how many rotary symbols did you come across?
Oh, that's a good question, and a number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think that's cool when we're traveling somewhere else and you go into a visitor center or something and there's a rotary symbol and it says something.
And a number of towns, you see where, the local Rotary has done this project or that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was in Canary Islands, one of the little islands of La Gomera. We walked into like a visitor center and right by the restroom, visitor center was built by whatever Rotary Club right there, clear as day. I always think it's cool to see those, so that's neat to hear. All right, if you'll stand and join me in the four-way test. We have a lot going on this weekend, a lot going on in over a whole lot of things. I hope everybody enjoys that time with each other, gets out to the events that you can, supports the club, supports the community. I appreciate what you all do. But let's help each other out as much as we can. And as we're out there engaging with people and the conversations we have, let's ask ourselves first, is it the truth? Is it fair law?